Hello and good evening. You're watching Express News with me, Nancy Kohli. Let's take a look at the top stories of the day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold bilateral talks with the Cyprus President and the Greece Prime Minister. The first ever meeting of India CARICOM leaders took place in New York on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. The leaders or the representatives of the 15 Caribbean countries attended the meeting hosted by India. Prime Minister Modi said that India and the CARICOM nations currently face challenges like climate change and those related to socio-economic issues like poverty alleviation. Prime Minister Modi underlined the need to focus on dealing these challenges with experiences of the past, the needs of the present and the aspirations of the future. Prime Minister Modi held bilateral talks with the leaders of Belgium, Armenia, New Zealand and Estonia on the sidelines of the UNGA. Prime Minister Modi with his Armenian counterpart discussed furthering bilateral cooperation, especially in the trade and culture. Speaking exclusively to Doordarshan News, Antigua and Barbuda, Prime Minister said that fugitive businessman Mehul Choksi will soon be extradited to India. The Barbuda Prime Minister added that Indian investigators are free to come and interrogate Mehul Choksi. He further added that Choksi is a crook and will eventually be repatriated. It's just a matter of time once he exhausts his legal options. Showcasing India as an attractive destination for doing business, Prime Minister Modi met the top American business leaders in New York on the sidelines of the UNGA. The companies represented at the meeting include the IBM, the Coca-Cola, the Bank of America and others. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar lashed out at Pakistan at the Council on Foreign Relations program in New York. He said it's only Pakistan who uses terror deliberately as a large-scale industry against its neighbor, and no talks can take place with a country that follows a policy of implausible deniability. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar attended the G4 meeting in New York, which is the meeting of the foreign ministers of India, Japan, Germany and Brazil. The leaders during the meeting reviewed the progress of the intergovernmental negotiations besides discussions on other issues of mutual interest. The External Affairs Minister also held bilateral meetings with his counterparts from China, Australia and Ukraine and discussed a variety of issues such as energy, technology and boosting bilateral ties. While speaking with Doordarshan News, the Union Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar said that India is committed to taking action to tackle the climate change. However, developed nations should also fulfill their commitments to provide resources. Union Minister Javadekar also said that India is no more a backbencher but is playing a leadership role on climate change. Enforcement Directorate moved an application in the Delhi High Court against Robert Vadra, in which the agency is seeking custodial interrogation. The Enforcement Directorate said that he's not cooperating with the probe. The next date of hearing is 5th November. The Election Commission has told the Supreme Court it would defer the upcoming by-polls to 15 assembly constituencies in Karnataka. Supreme Court has asked all the parties in the Ayodhya land dispute case to specify the time frame for completing the argument, saying that there will not be any extra day after 18th October. ISRO Chairman K. Shivan has said a plan is being worked out for moon mission in future after Vikram lander of Chandrayaan-2 had a hard landing. He said the orbit of Chandrayaan-2 is doing very well and all the payload operations have commenced. K. Shivan also said that ISRO is working out a detailed future plan and a national level committee has been formed to find out what wrong went with Vikram lander, and once the committee submits its report, ISRO will work on what to do in the future. President Ramnath Kovind inaugurated the National Seminar on Spirituality for Human and Social Development to mark the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. The seminar was organized by Ahimsa Vishwa Bharati at Dr. Ambedkar International Center in New Delhi. The President urged the youth to actively participate in the programs encouraging non-violence. Addressing the conference, the Union Social Justice and Empowerment Minister Thawarchand Gehlot said that on the occasion of the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, the country is carrying forward Gandhiji's views on cleanliness and the nation is being freed of the menace of open defecation. The rupee strengthened by 16 paise to close at 70.88 against the US dollar on Thursday as investor sentiment got a lift after the US President Donald Trump said a trade deal with China could happen sooner than expected. The market benchmark BSE Sensex zoomed 396 points on Thursday after rallying 565 points during the day. The 30-share Sensex ended 396 points or 1.03% higher at 38,989. The broader NSE Nifty soared 131 points or 1.15% to end at 11,571. The gold prices on Thursday drifted lower by 497 rupees to 38,685 rupees per 10 gram in the bullion market, tracking a weak global trend according to the HDFC Securities. The silver also dropped by 1,580 rupees to 47,235 rupees per kilogram from 48,815 rupees per kilogram. The Brent crude futures inched up 0.26% to $62.65 US per barrel. The market's regulator SEBI revised the position limits for interest rate derivatives falling in the 8 to 11 years maturity bucket. The decision has been taken after consulting the stock exchanges. In a relief to the crisis at Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank customers, the Reserve Bank of India has increased the withdrawal limit from 1,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees. Punjab National Bank launched a preventive vigilance portal to facilitate its staff members to check the procedural lapses and promote good practices. The budget airline SpiceJet will launch 46 new non-stop flights on its domestic network next month. According to the airline, the new flights will begin in phases starting 27th of October. Air India announced that it will be launching thrice weekly flights on Delhi-Toronto route from 27 September. The flights on the route will operate on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. The global e-commerce major Amazon unveiled 8 new Echo devices for the US market, 3 of which will be available in India for now. Seattle-based Amazon will also announce new Alexa features and smart home experiences. The crisis-stricken e-cigarette maker Juul announced a corporate shake-up, swapping out its CEO for a tobacco industry veteran as the US legal environment rapidly darkened for the company's main products. North Korea is evading UN sanctions to cash in on the soaring domestic demand for smartphones, using low-cost hardware imports to generate significant income for the regime. The economists estimate as many as 6 million North Koreans have mobile phones, a critical tool for participating in an informal market economy that has become a key income source for many. The US Justice Department will open an antitrust investigation of Facebook Inc. It will mark the 4th recent investigation of the social media company that also faces probe by the Federal Trade Commission, a group of state attorneys general led by New York and the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee. The Swedish telecom equipment maker Ericsson said it had made a $1.2 billion provision to cover the cost of resolving a US corruption investigation. Ericsson urged India to quickly start work on the 5G technology, including commercial trials to build country-specific use cases and reap benefits of the early movers' advantage. India plans to kickstart the commercial 5th-generation technology deployment from next year. Samsung has decided to exit from the entry-level television models, essentially the sub-32-inch screen segment, from the Indian market, saying even first-time buyers now prefer the large-screen models. Facebook introduced the strict criteria for political ads on the social network in Singapore to prevent the spread of misinformation as the city-state gears up for elections. France's former president Jacques Chirac passed away at the age of 86. He dominated French politics for decades and stirred national pride with his opposition to the US-led invasion of Iraq. According to a summary of the call released by the Trump administration, Donald Trump has asked Ukrainian President Zelensky to investigate whether former Vice President Joe Biden shut down an investigation into a company where his son worked. Ukrainian President Zelensky said he was not pushed by the US President Donald Trump to investigate a political rival Joe Biden. He also said he doesn't want to be involved in the democratic open elections of the US. The U.S. House of Representatives will launch a formal impeachment inquiry into U.S. President Donald Trump over reports he sought foreign help to smear a political rival. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced the inquiry after a closed-door meeting with the Democratic lawmakers, saying Trump's actions appear to have undermined the national security and violated the U.S.'s constitution. U.S. and Japan signed a limited trade deal that cuts tariffs on the U.S. farm goods, Japanese machine tools and other products while further staving off the threat of higher U.S. car duties. Speaking on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has asserted further dealings with Washington will steer clear of the tariff on autos and automotive parts. The U.S. has imposed new sanctions against several Chinese companies and the top officials for allegedly shipping Iranian oil. The U.S. Treasury Department announced that it is placing sanctions on the 5 Chinese nationals and 6 entities, including 2 shipping corporation subsidiaries. The UK House of Commons leader Rhys Mogg has said that the ruling Conservative Party will ask lawmakers to approve a short adjournment of Parliament next week to allow the party to hold its annual conference. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that European Union will move on the thorny issue of the backstop designed to prevent the return of a hard border on the island of Ireland after Brexit. The British Prime Minister said that he would not seek an extension to Brexit even if the conditions of a recently passed bill were met. The opposition parties recently forced through a new law requiring the government to ask for a delay to Brexit beyond the deadline of 31st of October if it fails to secure a deal by 19th October. Britain's Parliamentary Speaker of the House, John Bercow, told lawmakers to stop treating each other as enemies after a day when several criticised the rhetoric of Prime Minister Boris Johnson for deepening division in the country. Bercow said that the culture in Parliament was toxic. Israel's president has tasked Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with forming a new government after last week's deadlocked elections. The announcement followed a joint meeting between President Rivlin Netanyahu and the Premier's challenger Benny Gantz. Netanyahu will have 28 days to form a government with a possible 2-week extension. Iran's president used the world stage to warn that security in the Persian Gulf could unravel with a single blunder and its fragile peace be guaranteed only by the region's countries, not through U.S.'s intervention or Washington's merciless economic terrorism. President Hassan Rouhani on Wednesday accused the United States of engaging in international piracy against his country by reimposing economic sanctions after Washington withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal with the world powers. Guatemalan President Jimmy Morales continued to lambast a UN-backed anti-graft commission even though it disbanded this month after he refused to extend its mandate. Morales has accused the body of abuses of power and prompting a swift rebuke from the UN Secretary General. Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse called for a unity government as he faced a brewing political crisis and intensifying protests after a ruling party senator fired a pistol to disperse a crowd. The residents have been incensed at widespread fuel and food shortages, a weakening currency, double-digit inflation, and accusations that officials stole the public money. The Hong Kong police beefed up security near the Queen Elizabeth Stadium, where Chief Executive Carrie Lam is expected to hold her first public dialogue. Lam will hold a dialogue with the 150 members of the community in a bid to resolve a political crisis. Speaking at the UNGA, Ecuador's president called for a way to achieve a peaceful solution to the deepening political and humanitarian crisis in Venezuela. Moreno said it is the task of the United Nations to find a definitive solution for Venezuela. Bulgaria's Kristalina Georgieva has been selected as the new head of the International Monetary Fund. Georgieva said her immediate priority is to help countries minimize the risk of crisis and be ready to cope with the downturn. Large fire broke out in the early hours of Thursday at a French factory, Lubrizol, in the northern port city of Rouen. The authorities said that there were no reported victims at this stage. The Royal Australian Navy commenced its largest deployment of 2019 with the new air warfare destroyer, leading a 9-ship task group out of Sydney. The task group will make its way to Japan for an international fleet review. The Mexican state of Oaxaca approved a bill to legalize abortion, making it the second region of the predominantly Roman Catholic country after the Mexico City to permit the procedure. A 6.8 magnitude earthquake hit Indonesia's eastern Maluku province early on Thursday, causing damage to some buildings. Indonesia's geophysics agency said that there was no risk of a tsunami. A Russian Soyuz spaceship blasted off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan towards the International Space Station carrying a crew of 3. The new crew's arrival will boost the ISS head count to 9. Scientists behind a landmark study of the links between oceans, glaciers, ice caps and the climate delivered a stark warning that if the carbon emissions continue, it would upset the balance of the great geophysical systems governing oceans and the frozen regions of the Earth. The newly hatched baby turtle to be released into the wild as the part of a unique conservation program by the Israeli Sea Turtle Rescue Center. According to the World Wildlife Fund, green turtles are endangered worldwide. To help the turtle population, the Israeli nature authorities have declared some beaches nature reserves. Manhattan District Attorney has announced the return of the glided coffin of Ned Jamank back to Egypt after it was found to be stolen from the country in 2011. Indian shuttler Parupalli Kashyap advanced to the Korea Open men's singles quarter-final after a 3-game triumph with 21-17, 11-21, 21-12 over Malaysia's Darren Liu. The Indian duo of Pankaj Advani and Aditya Mehta overcame a tough Thai team to emerge world champions in the IBSA World Snooker Team event. This takes Advani's world title tally to a phenomenal 23, while Aditya claimed his maiden at a time when his future is being doubted due to health issues. Gurkirit Singh's brace helped India thump Sri Lanka 3-0 and move to the semi-finals of the SAF Under-18 Championship on Wednesday. Gurkirit's brace alongside Aman Chetri's strike proved to be the difference between the two sides in India's last league match. Rohit Sharma moved up a place, becoming world number 8 in the latest international T20 rankings, while India skipper Virat Kohli and Shikhar Dhawan inch closer to the top 10 spot in the latest list. In the international T20 bowlers rankings, Washington Sundar is the top-ranked Indian. He moved 8 spots to be placed 50th. Manchester United survived a League Cup scare against third-tier Rochdale as they won 5-3 on penalties, while West Ham suffered a shock 4-0 defeat at the Oxford. After edging out Rochdale AFC on the penalties in the Carabao Cup, Manchester United coach Ole admitted that the side is better in penalty shootouts than in proper 90 minutes game. Harvey Elliott became the youngest player ever to start a competitive match for Liverpool as the winger played in Wednesday's 2-0 League Cup win at Milton Keynes Dons, aged 16 years and 174 days old. After registering a 2-0 win against MK Dons in the Carabao Cup, the Liverpool coach Jurgen Klopp labelled striker Harvey Elliott as a brilliant boy. The team will next take on Sheffield United in the Premier on the 28th of this month. The Spanish club FC Barcelona confirmed that Argentine striker Lionel Messi elongated his left abductor during the team's match against Villarreal and will be sidelined for the upcoming matches. World number 1 Novak Djokovic, forced out of the US Open with a shoulder injury, is back in training and will play in Tokyo next week. His return means he could play out the season and hold off a challenge to his number 1 ranking from the US Open winner Rafael Nadal. Australia's one-day skipper Aaron Finch is keen to play the Test cricket again after watching the top order fail to fire during the recent Ashes series. The 32-year-old was dumped after scoring just 97 runs in 3 tests as an opener against India last summer. Uruguay defeated Fiji 30-27 to register their first win in the Rugby World Cup after a span of 16 long years. The wins leaves Fiji's hopes of reaching the World Cup quarterfinals for the first time since 2007 in tatters. Rupa Gurunath, the daughter of the former BCCI president N. Srinivasan, has been elected as the president of the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association. She has become the first woman to head a state-level cricket body in the country. The International Cricket Council announced a partnership with the social media giant Facebook for carrying out a range of digital content across 4 years. The content will include the match recaps, in-play key moments, and other match and the feature content as well. The BCCI announced their schedule for the T20 International Series against Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka will tour India for a 3-match T20 International Series that will begin on the 5th of January next year in Guwahati. International Association of Athletics Federation announced that Sebastian Coe has been elected as its president for the second term during the 52nd IAF Congress in Doha. Real Madrid announced the 19-man squad for La Liga clash against Osasuna tomorrow. Gareth Bale is the notable absentee in the squad. The second edition of the Virat Kohli-backed Indian Sports Honours will be held on Friday when top performers in 17 sporting disciplines will be felicitated. A coaching uniform worn by American baseball hero Babe Ruth is expected to fetch up to $500,000 at a sports memorabilia auction in California this November. Other sporting gems will also go under the hammer at the auction. A music festival organization is taking its temporary accommodation skills to the Bahamas to help people made homeless by the Hurricane Dorian. Veteran actor Rishi Kapoor took to Twitter to pay rich tributes to legendary star Dev Anand on his 97th birth anniversary. Rishi took a walk down the memory lane and shared one of his encounters with the ace actor at a party just after the release of Bobby. Choreographer turned director Bosco Leslie Marty's upcoming dance horror comedy will feature Student of the Year 2 actor Aditya Seal as the leading man. The film will go on the floors by February 2020. The power-packed trailer of Marjawa starring Siddharth Malhotra, Ritesh Deshmukh and Tara Sutaria has been released. The 3-minute 16-second trailer of the film seems to be a sequel of Ek Villain. Kriti Kharbanda and Pooja Hegde, who are all set to play the dual roles in the upcoming comic Riot Houseful 4, unveiled their dual character posters from the film. Adding to the excitement, Akshay Kumar also took to Instagram to unveil the posters of his and Ritesh Deshmukh's characters in Houseful 4, in which Ritesh seems to be playing the role of a dancer. Keanu Reeves has said he has read the very ambitious script of Matrix 4 and is looking forward to returning as Neo. Reeves co-star Carrie-Anne Moss is also coming back to the franchise as Trinity. Elizabeth Banks became the first ever female director honored with the Pioneer of the Year by the Will Rogers Motion Picture Foundation in the Beverly Hills, California. Actor-director Jason Bateman is in talks to direct Clue, the movie adaptation based on Hasbro board games. Ryan Reynolds is attached to star it and produce the reboot. Soon after Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Fleabag made a clean sweep at the Emmy Awards this year, Andrew Scott has signed on to play a book and the film character Tom Ripley in a Showtime series based on Patricia Highsmith's novels. The French couture house Petou came back to life for the Paris Fashion Week, now under new parent company. There was no catwalk for the models, who all stood still chatting or reading a book. The models at the Lanvin's fashion show in Paris shrugged off the drizzle for a stroll through a dreamy museum garden showing off the long dresses, comic strip prints and adventurous capes. Actors John Stamos and Graham Phillips have joined the cast of ABC's The Little Mermaid Live, set to air on the 5th November. The Little Mermaid Live is produced by Dawn and Dusted. Actor Ray Romano has been roped in to play a pivotal role in the HBO Max comedy Made for Love. The series, based on a tragi-comic novel by Alison Nutting, also features Kristen Milioti. And with that, it's a wrap on this news.